So he says he's waiting on the link. Has it sent yet?
Yes, Mr. Rogers, it has been sent. I will send him an email as well.
Okay. It's logging on now.
I see the man of the hour has arrived.
Okay.
Okay, if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and start.
Okay.
Good afternoon, panelists and local media partners. My name is Kyle Irvin, Public Safety Information Officer with the City of Charlottesville, and I'd like to welcome you to our virtual press conference where you will have the opportunity to ask questions of our forthcoming Police Chief, Michael Kachis, following his official appointment during last night's City Council meeting. Mr. Kachis comes to us from Warrenton Police Department and is scheduled to begin his employment with the City of Charlottesville on Monday, January 16th. It's now my pleasure to introduce our interim city manager, Michael C. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, do you have any opening remarks?
I do. And I do you have to allow me to start my video.
David, do you have capability there? Let's see. I believe I do. Okay. Mr. Rogers, I believe you can do so on your end down at the bottom left-hand corner. There we go. Now we can see.
Okay, good.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm glad to have the press represented here today. I thought it would be a good idea for us to formally introduce to you Michael Kachis. It was approved by the City Council last night as our new police chief. Approved my nomination of Mr. Kachis as police chief. It was an exhaustive search process, very intense. We had three candidates that you all saw at a public forum. During that day, those candidates had been through 12 hours of activities. We put them through a very rigorous process. And at the end of that process, all those involved agreed that Michael Kochis was the person that should be nominated to be police chief in the district. So we'd like to welcome him to the city. He'll be joining us on the 16th of January, and we look forward to his leadership in the department. Chief Kochis, any comments you have to make?
Yes, well, hello. I'm trying to put the camera on and it's not allowing me. It says the host has stopped it.
Let's see. I do not have capability on my end. David, do you have capability to do so?
Oh, there we go.
There we are.
All right,
Good
hello.
afternoon, Mr. Kochis.
Well, good afternoon, and City Manager Rogers, great to see you again, sir.
Yes, sir.
And Deputy City Manager Marshall, thank you and for your correspondence back and forth. It's been very helpful over the last 2 days with a lot going on. And Deputy City Manager David, I appreciate all of the work everyone's put into this process. As City Manager Rogers said, it was an exhaustive process, and I really do appreciate that. It tells me the care and thoughtfulness that has been put into this position and into this role within the city of Charlottesville. So I look forward to getting started and that transition. I met with my town manager today, and we've come up with a process of moving forward for a smooth transition, because I think both the community of Warrenton deserves that and the community of Charlottesville deserve it as well.
Okay.
Great.
So any questions? Joe?
Y'all have anything else to add before we move on to the Q&A section?
I think we can jump right in.
Okay. Well, thank you all. At this time, for members of the media that wish to ask questions, please select the raise hand icon in the Zoom webinar. Questions will be taken in order by which hands are raised. When you are called upon, please state your name and media affiliation. You may ask a question and a follow-up question. As time permits, additional questions may be entertained. Let's see who we have for our first participant. All right, at the top, we have Joe Thomas.
Is he muted?
Can we put Joe on?
Yeah, he's muted.
Yes, Joe, you will need to unmute.
My apologies. There I am. Sorry about that. I wasn't watching my Zoom screen. Joe Thomas, WCHV Radio, not Zoom articulate, apparently. Chief, I appreciate you holding this press conference. You said during your appearance at the Civilian Police Oversight Board forum that you had done some research into Charlottesville and looked into where we are and how we've gotten here. Have you, in that research, spoken to any of the previous chiefs? And now that you know kind of where we are, and once you learn the volatility of this position, what skills do you have that will help you both conduct the work of a police department in a volatile political position? And if you have time for a follow-up, I'd like to ask you about the potential of a new city manager once a permanent one is selected.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. Great question, sir. So in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the police chief world, is pretty small in general. And I think that goes throughout the country as well. It's a group of peers that, while you may not have a formal relationship, a personal relationship with them, when you talk to them for the first time, it seems like you've known them forever. And so I have reached out to my peers. I want to talk about specific. I've talked to a lot of people leading up to the process. I've spoken to a lot of folks, chiefs, deputy chiefs, other managers, and to really get perspective. And I will tell you, I've been a chief in Warrenton for 3 years. And I continue to this day to speak with my peers, because there's challenges that we deal with, whether you're at a small department, a large department, small community, large community. These are complex issues that we're dealing with in our communities. And, I think our communities expect nothing less than for us to be communicating about best practices. What's working in one jurisdiction may not be working in another. And I will tell you, the Virginia Association of Chiefs has also been helpful in speaking with them as well. So to answer your question, without, I prefer not to say who I talked to, because I talked to a lot of people. We'd probably be here for a few hours if I did. So
Understood. But what skill set do you bring to the job, given our volatile political environment as it revolves around the police chief?
Yeah, so obviously there is a volatile environment, but I don't think that's unique to Charlottesville. I think in general within our profession, you're seeing a transition, right? We talk a lot. I talked about this during the forum about what does the 22nd policing report look like, and that may sound simple, but that answer I believe is pretty complex. And I think communities, whether it be Charlottesville, Alexandria, or any other jurisdiction in this country, is going to have to really figure out, and our leaders within our police organizations are going to need to do that. So, I know there's a lot of conversation around Charlottesville and policing and the relationship between the Charlottesville community and the Charlottesville Police Department. But in my brief conversations, those folks who signed up to serve the citizens of the city of Charlottesville with the Charlottesville Police Department did so for a purpose. Right. And I got to get to know them. I want to get to know the women and men of that agency. And, I need to understand, where they're at and how we move forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Thomas, for your question.
Let me go back to Mr. Thomas. His follow-up was about what happens when a new city manager, a permanent city manager comes.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. And let me just say, Mr. Thomas, that every day city managers are hired into cities where there is already an existing police chief. And he's the police chief for the city, though he reports directly to the city manager. And there is a professional courtesy that happens as long as any professional who reports to a professional city manager is doing their job. You work it out. So I don't think he has. We need to be concerned about that.
And I'm not.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we have Alexia Williams. Alexia, once selected, could you please unmute your mic?
Yes, I believe that I did. Can you hear me?
You
Yeah.
did. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Again, my name is Alexia Williams, and I'm a reporter with CBS 19 News. My question today is, the city's former police chief, Rashad Barkley, has made a lot of claims in the past, and many of these claims revolve around the department's racism and sexism. Are you aware of these claims, and how will you address them?
I am aware of those claims, and they're pretty serious claims. I think I don't know the details of what happened or anything to do with the former chief. I've met her one time, and that was at the forum. She was cordial, came up, spoke with me, and like I said, very, very cordial conversation. But other than that, I've never had a conversation with the former chief. So I'm not going to pass judgment on her or any of that, to be completely honest with you. I will say the accusation of racism within not only a police department, but any government entity or any position of trust should be taken very serious. And I will tell you, if that accusation on anybody or any person deserves a full and thorough investigation, and if I had any evidence that would be occurring, that'll be dealt with. But I will tell you that the accusation, those officers who are accused of that, if there are any that are being accused of that, I don't have specifics at this point. they deserve to be they deserve a full investigation.
All right, perfect. And I actually have a follow-up question. Are you available to do that?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Going back to some of those claims, I know your past in the law enforcement realm and also in Warrington has led you to this position. And how are you going to change Charlottesville, or what are you going to add? Kind of like the last question that we had, what are your elements that you're bringing forth to the table with your experience from Warrington and your years as a police officer and a chief?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, and I've spoken a lot about this, about trust and building trust. Trust isn't lost overnight. It's not going to be gained overnight. And so there's a lot of work to do. But I think the last thing you want is a chief coming in on day one and starting to judge everybody on based on what they've heard in the media or in the public or anywhere else, and then turning a place upside down. That's not the role of a leader. It is, I look at my job to come in and just listen and have real life conversations with the women and men of the Charlottesville Police Department and then the community. At the end of the day, that's why we're there, is to involve the community in their police department and to serve them and to meet their expectations. And in order for me to understand their expectations, it's going to take a lot of conversations. It's going to allow me being present in those communities and listening to a lot of people and talking to a lot of people. And it was just announced last night. Council just voted on this last night. But I can tell you even today, I mean, my phone hasn't stopped ringing and folks have been reaching out, and it is confirming what I thought when I looked at Charlottesville, that it is a community that is screaming to be engaged with their police department and screaming to be involved with their police department. So we're going to do just that. And there's going to be a lot of conversations.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Alexia. Mr. Rogers, did you have anything to add?
No, I think that one of the things I've asked the chief to do is come in and start a strategic planning process for the department. And I think that that will help uncover a number of the issues that are talked about and give us input from the field in terms of what we need to do to move forward under his leadership. So I think we're in a good space.
Thank you all. Moving forward, next up we have Isabel Cleary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Isabel Cleary. I'm with NBC 29. And my first question is, from what you've been able to learn from the forum and talking with city leaders, what are some of your top priorities when you start on day one? And kind of in conjunction with that, what are some of your ideas to fill the vacancies in the department that it really kind of has been struggling with for a while now?
Well, thank you. Great question. So as the city manager has said, one of those primary tasks to get done is to develop a strategic plan and identify specific strategic priorities. Now, strategic plan can be complex, and it's equally as important to involve all the correct stakeholders in developing that strategic plan, to include the community, city staff, police department staff, the community oversight board, and other key stakeholders, right? So again, that goes back to listening and bringing that together, and then developing what is our collaborative, what are our collaborative priorities, right? That we should set forward. The city manager has been pretty clear to me that recruitment and retention is one of those priorities, and it makes all the sense in the world, because if you think about it, you can't do things if you don't have people, and so we got to figure that out. I've said it before, and I say it all the time. Recruiting isn't a one-off thing. It's not just a table at a job fair. It's everything from what is the image that we're portraying to the public, right? Are we portraying an image of and I said this to our local media, but it really kind of illustrates it. Are we portraying an image of a SWAT team kicking in the door, or are we portraying an image of one of our officers sitting there tying some kid's shoe, right? Like, those are two very different images. And we have to decide as an agency And as a community, what do you want of your police department? And what are we putting out there? And then when you do that, then you start getting the folks you want into the profession for the right reasons. And so there's a lot involved there. We could probably sit and talk about strategic planning for a long time. But that is the first priority. So, and that begins with listening, developing a clear mission and vision, and going from there.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Mr. Rogers, any additional comments?
Not on that, no.
Okay. Our next question comes from Alice Berry.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Alice Berry. I'm with the Daily Progress. So Saturday night, there was a shooting near some student-affiliated housing not far from the University of Virginia. UVA police initially said that a suspect fled, and then about 40 hours later, there was a press release from CPD saying that actually the person injured suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and that CPD quickly determined that. So what we were wondering is what time frame is appropriate, because for a lot of people 40 hours isn't a quick determination, and what kind of information can the public how quickly can the public expect to receive information from CPD while you're chief?
So I can't speak to the specific incident because I wasn't there, and I don't know the details of what was going on inside or the details of the investigation. I can tell you that I've not spoken to anybody there about that. As you know, I start on the 16th. What I will say is this: communication is very important. Okay, but without knowing the structure within the agency, who manages the Facebook and social media platforms within the agency, right? And do watch commanders that worked a night shift, do they have access to say, hey, road's closed, or hey, this is happening or that's happening, and the training to do that? Or is it more centralized at city communications? I don't know all those answers yet. So I think to understand what happened and why, I would need to know all of that. But I will say that what's one of the things we did when I got here to Warrenton is really to put the information out there that's closest to the ground. Okay. So getting it out there quickly. Look, we're not going to keep up with social media. We're just not, right? So, but it's important for us to communicate with the public efficiently and accurately, and then go from there. But without that specific incident, I don't know the details about it, and I wasn't there, so I don't want to cast judgment on how they operated.
And I have a follow-up question, if that's all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us more about your plan to address rising gun crime in Charlottesville?
Yeah, well, I think Charlottesville's dealing with a lot of the similar issues that a lot of communities are, and I've said this before. I actually was talking with someone today about traffic safety. Right, we got speeding issues, and the data doesn't support that there's speeding issues, but the reality of it is, if your kid doesn't feel safe playing in the street because people are speeding, it's still a problem, right? So there is a gun issue. There is a issue with guns in the streets of Charlottesville, whether the data supports that or not, because the community obviously feels that way. So we need to figure out why that is, and who's bringing these guns into the city, and address them then. So again, without having all the data matters as well, right? And that's understanding what the community feels like, how the community feels, and then also understand what does the data show. And then you got to put all that together and come up with a strategy to address those specific issues. And it needs to be a robust strategy that not only includes the police department and our law enforcement partners, but also the community and the community partners. We're not going to do it all on our own. We can go in there and arrest people, but that's not going to solve the issue. Okay, so these are complex issues that call for an inclusive strategy. So that would be my approach. Really need to get in there, talk to folks, and figure out how we can address the issue of gun violence in the community of Charlottesville.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. We do not have any more hands raised. However, I do have a incoming question via email. Oh, it seems we do have a Brielle Etzminger as our next panelist or attendee.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Brielle Insminger with Seaville Weekly. I just had two questions. So earlier, Chief, you brought up the importance of community conversations to build trust between the community and the department. Obviously, that's been an issue for a very long time. I was wondering if you had any other ideas or strategies you plan to implement to help bridge that trust and improve it.
Yeah. So, and like I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I will. Any type of community policing strategies have to have a purpose, right? And so I need to understand what the community wants to see, right? So some of the things we've done in Warrenton, I think would work in Charlottesville, like developing a community action team, right? With key stakeholders who are involved and understand the police department in the minutia of our policy. I also think getting out there and doing, in Warrenton, we have wards. So getting out there and doing community conversations within the wards. Look, I need to hear from you. I need to be out there, and you need to be able to look me in the face and tell me how you really feel and what's going on, so I can get a true sense of what the issues are, and then what kind of strategies will work. What do you want to see out of your police department? So I think those are some of the things. Community Police Academy. I know that our Citizens Academy. I know Charlottesville has one, but maybe having it where folks agree to volunteer time at the police department or with the police department, or the police department officers are spending time with the community. So all of those types of things, I think, can transition to the city of Charlottesville, and I have that model to implement that. But again, it's going to start with me coming out there, looking you in the eye, and hearing what you have to say. And I welcome those difficult conversations. You have to have them. I need to hear them. I need to hear those difficult conversations. I need to have them.
All right. And then I had one more question. So as Alice was talking about, gun violence has been on the rise and a very important issue in Charlottesville. As you may have heard, there are some violence prevention groups in Charlottesville that have started over the past 2 years or so. One of them is the Buck Squad. So I was wondering your thoughts on community violence prevention, like people going out there who aren't necessarily police and trying to stop shootings before it happened, and how you plan to support those efforts.
Well, so I have not met any members of the Buck Squad. I have done a little research into them. It seems like a group that is trying to do some really good work, and I would love the police department to be part of that. When I talk about including or involving community in their police department, I mean, that's the stuff I'm talking about. If they can meet with folks, if they can meet with the youth, that'll talk with them and maybe not talk with the police, and they can prevent a crime or prevent someone from being shot or a mother from losing their child, then I think it's a great thing. And we need to encourage that. As long as it's done in the right way. And from what I understand, it's not like some squad that goes around like trying to do citizen arrests and stuff like that. It's not that. They are a group of folks who are trying to get out there and build relationships with folks who may not want to talk to the police, and actually prevent crimes or beefs before they happen. A lot of these things are stirring and boiling up ahead of time, and they're trying to kind of get ahead of it and identify it. So I think it's good work that they're doing from what I can tell. And I hope to be a partner with them and work with them.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brielle. If you gentlemen have time for additional questions, we have another question from Mr. Joe Thomas.
Okay.
Sorry to double dip on this, but the conversation reminded me. The Albemarle County Police Department announced last week that they're having issues with drug gang violence in and around the urbanized area outside of the city. Chief, what experience do you have that will help fight the drug gang problem in Charlottesville from your time in Warrenton or Arlington before, or Alexandria before that?
Yeah, so there's a saying that I like to talk about where if you focus on guns, you might get drugs. If you focus on drugs, you might get guns. To me, priority is getting guns off the street, right? So I think that really needs to be our focus. That being said, we cannot ignore the fact of folks dying from opioid overdoses I mean, it's bad. And so we need to get a handle on that and figure out what's going on now. We've all heard it, and I truly believe we're not going to arrest our way out of the opioid crisis. Remember when I was a commander of our vice unit, narcotic unit in Alexandria many years ago, and we were dealing with it then. And we came up with a few unique strategies that really did help. It made a difference. We created a burner phone program where somebody who had overdosed would go to the hospital. A detective would actually come in, talk to them, and give them a phone. And in that phone was the number for services to get help, as well as the detective's number. So they could call them, and we would give that cell number then to the folks who were dealing with addiction prevention, right? So they would then proactively call that person who had just died the day before and was brought back, and get them into help and get them into some services. So that was very successful. And I believe that's one strategy we can use. And then obviously a drug treatment court, which we did in Alexandria. We actually modeled it after Charlottesville drug treatment court. And so there's a lot of strategies, but it's a complex issue, and people are dying from it. So I think it's going to be a multi-pronged approach to dealing with all of those things, but gun violence is probably at the top of the list.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Kachis, I have another question coming in via email with our participant who is here with us today, Sean Tubbs of the Town Crier Productions. He says, a difference between here and Warrenton is the presence of the University of Virginia with its own independent police department. The recent shooting illustrates that there are multiple jurisdictions. How do you think having a former police chief in that role will affect the way you approach your job? Somewhat related, can you talk about your relationships with Culpeper County's law enforcement?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with Culpeper County. I know the former chief who just announced his retirement pretty well, and I know their deputy chief. I think I've been to Culpeper maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. So as for the working with surrounding jurisdictions, I mean, that's something that I've been doing since I've been in law enforcement, and we have to. These things don't stop at the border of Charlottesville, right? So I'm going to have to work with my peers and my law enforcement partners in Albemarle County, at UVA, Virginia State Police, with the FBI, with DEA, ATF. I mean, these are, our community expects that, right? If someone who has lost someone to gun violence, they don't want to hear, well, it happened in Charlottesville, so I'm not going to go over to UVA, or happened on campus, not going to go to Charlottesville. They don't want to hear that. They expect more from their law enforcement professionals, and I believe we'll do just that.
I might note too that part of our drill on the 28th was to start the candidates meeting with the sheriff of Albemarle County and the sheriff of Charlottesville. Chief Longo from the university was invited, but could not attend because he had his hands full with things that were happening there. But the chief certainly recognizes the importance of that regional collaboration. You can't do it without it. And I recognize that Sheriff Reeves had a big statement on gang violence in the region, and it's not just in the county, it's in the city as well. So we've got to put a focus on it, and it's got to be a collaboration across agencies in order to deal with it.
I've got another question coming in from Alexia Williams.
Hi again. So speaking on gun violence and juvenile violence in particular, we've seen a lot of gun-related shootings and incidences within Charlottesville just within the last 3 months. A lot of it having to do with juveniles obtaining weapons and shooting one another. I just want to know, what's the difference? How are you going to approach juveniles related to gun violence versus adults related to gun violence, and how are we going to lower these statistics?
Yeah, I think it's a complicated conversation, because building relationships with youth at a very young age is very important. So we really need to sit down and understand what kind of programs and that we have within the city that allows law enforcement and other members of government to be involved with the youth at a young age, so they see them as a positive role model, right? And so someone who, so they have something to look forward to or look up to, other than what they may see from another gang member who may be trying to sell them a different way of life, right? So I think it's important that we build those relationships at a very young age, and I mean that's where it needs to start. And then getting out there and talking to parents and telling them what to look for. In Fauquier County, they have a program, Hidden in Plain Sight, and it's basically where they set up a child's room, and they show them different things within that room for parents to look for, to see different warning signs, if you will, of maybe if their child is going down the wrong path. So there's a lot of things out there you can do, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take resources.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping to have some of those implemented in Charlottesville, since you keep mentioning all of these wonderful programs. So looking forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexia. I was having some technical difficulties. Apologies. So before we wrap up, thank all of the attendees for the great questions that they provided us. I wanted to open it up to Mr. Kachis or Mr. Rogers for any closing remarks you may have.
Well, let my boss go first.
Let's do that.
We do appreciate the media signing on today and beginning this relationship with our new chief. We're all concerned about what appears to be an escalation of gun violence in our city. It's been more instances than we're used to, and naturally people are concerned about it. So that's one area that we've got to focus on. But Chief Kachis has pointed out that he will be present in the communities. He will collaborate with people across the city and get to understand the programs that we have in the city that youth need. That's one of the things I always hear, is that there are not enough programs for youth, that youth don't have enough to do. And we've got to focus on that and try to change that trajectory for these young people. So it's something that the department will be focused on, and the department and the community working together can tackle these difficult problems in our community. And I look forward to partnering with the chief and the men and women of the Charlottesville Police Department as we do that.
Well, thank you. And again, I do thank the media for being here and asking questions. And I look forward to questions. I mean, look, the media, local media is a stakeholder. You have a role within this community, a very important role. And I understand that and I appreciate it. So please know that when I do come into that position, that I am there for you, and I do value your role within the community. We need to, like the city manager said, programs are, giving youth something to do is so important, and coming up with unique ways I don't have all the answers. We don't have all the answers, so getting out there and speaking with parents and speaking with the youth and getting their ideas as well, I think can be helpful. So I look forward to doing that. Like I said, I look forward to getting down there and getting to work and looking forward to getting started. Thank you.
Okay. Let me ask Deputy City Manager Marshall if who has oversight of police department for the city manager, if you have any observations or comments you'd like to make.
No, sir, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, but I'm just very thankful that that Chief was able to provide some information to the media as well as you, sir. And for those in the media, I apologize. I'm not able to turn on my camera, but since that's my statement, we don't need to go through all the checks and clicks.
Okay. And Marianne Hardy is our Director of Human Resources, who's responsible for making sure that the chief gets onboarded effectively. Marianne, you have any comments or observations you'd like to make?
Thank you, sir. I just want to say, Chief, welcome to Charlottesville, and we'll
Thank you.
definitely look forward to working with you and getting you acclimated here. And yeah, I'm glad you're able to be part of the process today too.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
And thank David Dillahunt and Kyle Irvin for quickly arranging this press conference. We were texting last night during council when I had this idea that we should do this today, and they made it happen. So, and thank you for being available, Chief, on short notice. And
No problem, sir.
Thank you all very much. We'll look forward to seeing you at future council meetings.
Thank you all. Mr. Kachis, I look forward to working with you, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of us when I say we're looking forward to having you serve our community here.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure we'll be talking ahead of time.
That's right. All right. I hope you all have a